Hello, Canucks fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Canucks Conversation. My name is Chris Faber, and we are rocking solo here, brought to you by the great folks at Zephyr Epic. Use our promo code Hockey Season, all one word, capital H, capital S, Hockey Season. That'll get you $5 off your order of $50 or more, and you'll get free shipping on top of it as well. It's good stuff over there, Zephyr Epic. They got the rookie cards coming in of Andrei Kuzmenko, so be sure to check that out, and be sure to follow them as well at Zephyr Epic on Instagram, Twitter. Lots of good stuff over on their social media there. They keep you up to date with all the sales that are going on, all the new breaks, everything. Follow them on Twitch as well. They got some live breaks on there. Like I said, we're rocking solo today. My name is Chris Faber. I think I mentioned that already off the top. I am joined by our producer, Alex Allard, who's here with me as well. We got the Canucks tonight facing off against the St. Louis Blues. We'll get into that. We're going to talk a bunch of prospects because obviously I'm by myself. What else are we going to talk about? It's going to be prospects. We'll dive into a ton of that. We are joined by one of our favorite prospects as well. He's going to join us at about 1:15. Arturs Silovs is going to bring the Arty party to Canucks Conversation Live here on YouTube. We're going to have a lot of fun with the chat today as well. We're rocking with the solo episode. We're basically just hanging out. We're both just going to be hanging out today. So I'll bring in producer Alex Allard. Alex, how are you doing today? What's the day been like for you? So it's good to hear. It's that East Coast bias. But you were producing Leafs Morning Take today. Those Leafs guys over there. But you guys had Bruce Boudreau on the show today. I listened in. There wasn't really much Canucks talk, but that must have been a pretty cool little guest for you guys to have over on that show, eh?
Yeah, Bruce has been on a couple times now.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there.
Things to say about the Canucks. Everyone should go on and listen.
Yeah, excellent stuff, but don't subscribe. All right, let's get into tonight's game. Like I mentioned, the Canucks facing off against the St. Louis Blues tonight. A massive game for the draft lottery odds. Can we get the reverse standings up here, Alex? Have a look at these things, because how tonight's game is going to affect the draft lottery could be massive, because the Canucks facing off against the St. Louis Blues, they're basically just within one spot of each other right now in the reverse standings. And it's going to be an interesting game to follow tonight. We expect Thatcher Demko to be the starter tonight. We have seen some changes to the lineup, which we'll get to in just a moment here. But I did want to bring up just how this, like, tonight feels like the night where if the Canucks win, I think we have to retire that tank video, Alex. I don't think we're going to be able to pull that thing out after tonight. The Canucks are starting to pull away. We see their record, obviously, over the last 10 games. They're 8-2-0. Over the last 12, they've won 10 games. They're playing good hockey. They're playing really good hockey.
I brought this up on the Flames show, but you know, the Flames are talking how they're close and they're kind of there and they're just kind of falling off now. The Canucks have more wins than the Flames do, but the Flames have all these loser points. I think I talked to you about that too. Same with like the Stars; they're pretenders too. They have 14 loser points. We got to get away with these loser points.
I could not believe that when you brought it up pre-show yesterday that the Calgary Flames have 15 overtime or shootout losses, and that's what's kind of propelling them to the point of being in a playoff or near a playoff spot, that is anyways. I mean, the Canucks have more wins, like you said. That is a wild stat to look at, with the Canucks having more wins than a team that's actually really close to being in a playoff spot right now with the Calgary Flames. And I think that kind of brings up like the Canucks, the way they're playing. They're at 500 right now up to this. They've won, like I said, 10 of their last 12 games. It's been good hockey of late. They've had some additions to the lineup now, even with guys like Filip Hronek, and obviously the Thatcher Demko coming back made a huge difference for this team. But when you look at the reverse standings, you see the Canucks are at 73 points right now. I mean, 73 games in, 73 points. It's obviously not where you want to be. This isn't a spot where you're, battling with the Anaheim, Chicago, Columbus, San Jose group that is at the bottom of the standings or the top of the draft lottery standings, depending how you want to look at it. And I think that's what's difficult, because the Canucks are also in a spot where they're not near a playoff spot. We just talked about the Calgary Flames. Those loser points are helping them get to that point, I guess. But the Canucks are back to that mushy middle, and touched on this a little bit on yesterday's show about this season being a little bit of a disaster. And I don't think you can look at it any other way, right? Like, there's been a lot of positivity over the last little bit, but there was even more positivity, it felt like, last season. And to see the Canucks be back in this mushy middle is just not where you want this team to ever be. For people who watch this organization, whether you're a fair weather fan or a diehard who tunes into this show and reads everything at Canucks Army and can't get away from the content for one day, like, everybody just wants to see this team have success in the end. And it's a very difficult spot when you're consistently in the mushy middle, because you don't give yourself a real opportunity to land a Connor Bedard. You don't give yourself an opportunity to even pick a Fantilli or a Carlson, guys that can really change your organization for the better. And if you're not there and you're not competing for a playoff spot, to me, that's a disaster. To me, that is the worst spot that you can be in. The mushy middle is where the Canucks have been for a long time. And we're seeing that continue on into this season. So change is something we've wanted in this market for a long time. I think we started to see a little bit of it this year. We saw this management group do their work. There's still so much to do in the offseason. They're going to have to get to some sort of changes in the offseason, whether it be something like an OEL buyout, whether it be a JT Miller trade or moving on from one of these other wingers. There still needs to be so much more moves to make this team actually competitive. And I think that's where they're going, right? Like, we're not looking at this team and thinking, okay, well, maybe this is the year they tank a little bit. Like, this was the right season for them to do that. There was Connor Bedard, a local kid, at the top of the draft lottery. You also had a Swedish guy who's going to go in the top 3, so we know the Canucks management probably likes that. And then Fantilli, what he's doing in the NCAA, like, this was the year to go down and actually take a step back. The Canucks obviously haven't done that. They've rang off a bunch of wins here as this season has gone on to this point. And I don't know. I don't know where they're going to go this offseason. I do think there's going to be a ton of movement. There has to be. There's going to obviously be a lot of changes to happen with this team. I'm not sure where to even start, to be honest. I'm very curious what this team ends up doing in free agency. That's always going to be an option. It's always going to, no matter where your team is at, they're going to sign a free agent. So it'll be interesting to see which way the Canucks go with theirs, as well as some RFAs to peek at as well. But I want to dive into tonight's game a little bit as we took things from a wide lens there, talking about the Vancouver Canucks. Tonight, they face off against the St. Louis Blues. A couple of lineup changes as well for the Vancouver Canucks, and a guy that I want to spend a little bit of time talking about here before we're joined by Arturs Silovs in about just under 10 minutes time here. He's going to hop on the show and join us here, which we're very excited about. And by the way, the Abbotsford Canucks, they're off in Winnipeg. They're going to face the Manitoba Moose on Wednesday. So we'll get to that in just a little bit, but let's get the lines up here. Alex, from today, tweeted out by Dan Murphy. Changes at the top as Andrei Kuzmenko and Elias Pettersson have a new line mate, and it's a guy that finished off a little bit of their game on Sunday against the Chicago Blackhawks. It's Dakota Joshua hopping into the lineup here, moving up to the top line, getting that opportunity with Elias Pettersson, which basically, if you're on the Vancouver Canucks and you're in the organization, you would love to be on a line with Elias Pettersson. We see Joshua get that opportunity. I think this is just, it's something we've talked about for a while with Joshua. This is the perfect landing spot. This is the spot for Joshua to have a good couple of years here in the NHL. With Rick Tocchet as his coach, Tocchet believes in this player, believes that he can be a 20-goal scorer if put into the right opportunity. And now you're seeing a little bit of shine here on the penalty kill. And that type of play gets rewarded sometimes with the lineup change. And that's what I think we're seeing here with Dakota Joshua, who has earned a lot of the trust from the coach, and he's now getting an opportunity to play with the best forward on the Vancouver Canucks in Elias Pettersson, as well as Kuzmenko, who basically is just a magnet for putting up points for yourself as well. And I like this opportunity. Joshua's got 11 goals and 9 assists in 70 games this year. He's averaging 11 minutes and 11 seconds of ice time per night, and he has 190 hits on the season. He's been a guy who had 40 NHL games coming into this year. It's not like he was a veteran. He's 26 years old, but it's not like he was playing since he was 20. Had a couple years in the NHL, had an NCAA career that was a little ripped up because of COVID, even at that point. But now he's given an opportunity in the NHL, not just an opportunity, but a real serious opportunity with success on the horizon. And that's what I think is going to be a great situation for Joshua. Do I think he's going to be a top line with Elias Pettersson? No, I don't think that's going to be a spot where he always is. But even just getting this opportunity, these are the things that we like to see when we talk about this team doing an extended training camp. It's like, let's see what Joshua looks like for a run. Does that give the line enough of an interesting look to say, okay, maybe this is something we go to here and there, depending on how the game goes, right? It's an opportunity for him for sure to showcase himself. We do have video, and we'll play this real quick. Rick Tocchet talking about Dakota Joshua and the opportunity that he's kind of created for himself because of his good play. We know Tocchet really likes what Dakota Joshua has been able to do this season. He's obviously a player that Tocchet enjoys watching play. He's a guy that talked about the Canucks needing some players to be strong on the boards. And we'll just hear from Rick Tocchet here. We'll dive in on the other side. So this is Rick Tocchet here talking about Dakota Joshua.
Well, I'll tell you what, when I got here, I just knew something, this organization needs big wall guys, and we don't really have a lot. And when I saw him, gave him a responsibility, big part of our PK now, he's becoming a finisher. He's getting some chances. He's finishing. I think there's another level there, and we're lucky we have another year. And I told him if he plays a big man's game, give and go type of style, he'll pay the mortgage for a bunch of years here. He can do that. So, but and Josh knows for me is consistency. If he can stay consistent, that's probably his next level. Is a couple good games and not so much. Now he's starting to string 2, 3, 4 games together, and I think that's a big key for him.
Give him a run with Pettersson tonight, I guess.
Yeah. I put him against Chicago, and it kind of turned around the third period for us. So just to get peas, some guys will get some pucks for him.
So there's a lot to take away from those comments. I think the big one is the word consistency, right? That seems like the hot topic word there, especially when Tocchet's talking about Dakota Joshua. He's talked about the consistency needing to be there. And it's a consistent effort where I think if you put them in a position, if you put a player in a position now to play on a line with Elias Pettersson, this is the ultimate challenge of how consistent can you be. If you can be consistent enough to get an opportunity, that's one thing, that's great. Get a chance to play with Elias Pettersson. But now there's another question about consistency. It's, can you consistently be a guy who the coach can trust to play on a line with Elias Pettersson? That's a huge ask, right? That's a huge ask. It's also a great opportunity. So it's kind of a two-sided sword. If that's, I don't think that's the right way of putting it, but it's two different situations where there's a positive and necessarily a negative, but just like a little bit of a worrisome. Like, you have this opportunity, you've created the opportunity for yourself, but this isn't the end. This isn't this final spot on creating something because of being consistent. And I think that's what we liked with Joshua. I thought throughout the season, he's been a guy who does a lot of simple things around the crease that are really important. And this is something that I've watched and been really happy with. Wrote about it actually very early on in the season for Canucks Army about Dakota Joshua. And he just likes to simplify things around the net. Get the puck towards the net. Find somebody who's skating towards the net. Get them the puck. These type of things are the things that's given a lot of success early on for a guy like Dakota Joshua in a Vancouver Canucks jersey, and off to like a hot start with this team where I said only had 40 NHL games coming into this year. It's not like it was something he was consistently doing. He's finding a spot. He's finding his role. There's a lot to learn in your first season in the NHL, and Joshua's proving that he can be effective in that role. We're going to be joined by Arturs Silovs in just a couple of moments here, but also I want to say we are going to do a ton of prospect talk. You can check it out right now, actually, over on the YouTube channel for Canucks Army right here. I did post a Blackfish Canucks Army prospect report. It was like 11 minutes long. It was a long-winded one. The article had a lot. There was a lot of clips that we had to get to, and we'll play a couple later here in the show. But as well, if you want to get involved in the chat, we'll chat about whatever prospects you guys like to bring up, because I could do that all day long. I'm a little worried coming in here and doing the solo episode because I do like to talk, but I also like to take a little bit of a break here and there. So we'll have to see how the rest of this thing goes. But with prospects, I feel like that's the easy one. We can do that all day long. We'll close out the show with that after we are joined by Arturs Silovs, which we'll get to in just a minute. And pretty exciting things going on in Abbotsford, right? Obviously, they just clinched a playoff spot. That's super exciting for what this organization is hoping to see. Some playoff games out in the Valley. They didn't get any last year. And we'll probably have a little conversation with Arturs Silovs about that as well when we get to him. But with Abbotsford and the way they're playing, they haven't been playing great hockey of late. Lost a couple of games here, but they're a team that's finally clinched that spot. Maybe it's a little bit of weight off your shoulders getting to this point. And a lot of it has been the good goaltending of late. We've seen Spencer Martin and Arturs Silovs both play great hockey as of late, and that's something that's carried this Abbotsford team to the point that they're at right now. So tonight's game in Vancouver, it's going to be a lot of fun. But at the same time, like, I wonder, is this the final day that we can even like play the tank video? We're going to finish with it, of course, because that is what we do on this show. We always like to close it out. It's one of our favorite things to do here on the show, have a little bit of fun. But I don't know. I think after today, if the Canucks end up winning this game in regulation and you see no points for the St. Louis Blues, maybe this tank video that we worked so hard on, we don't get to see anymore, which would be unfortunate, but that's too bad. We'll have to see what happens anyways. No matter what, like at least there's some positives that we can look at from this Canucks team for next season, because I've questioned how much the winning has been a good thing throughout the year. But there's no question that the way that, Elias Pettersson is playing, having Thatcher Demko come back, these are at least positives that you hope you can take into next season. And these are ones that you have to feel some sort of confidence towards them being able to follow through into next season. It'd be something you can build off. At least those are the things that I feel confident that this team can build off of going into next season. Getting the good goaltending, playing better structure defensively, and the stars being stars. That's what it's all been about for the Vancouver Canucks and their winning ways over the past 12 games. So at least that's exciting. You like to see the team win. You like to see the local boys get some dubs. Speaking of dubs, we've had a lot of them in the AHL this season. The team just clinched a playoff spot. And now joining us here on the show, always an Arty party here on the show when we talk about Arturs Silovs, but now he is here for an Arty party here on the show. Arturs, how you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I need to ask off the top. I heard you guys had an incredible meal last night at Jetwoo's family restaurant. What was the best meal? What was the best thing you ate at Jetwoo's family restaurant last night?
For me, I think it was like everything was like amazing. There was like a rice dish. There was like chicken was like really good. Desserts were really good. So I think overall the dinner was like really, really nice, and we're all really thankful to his family to hosting us to their restaurant.
That's awesome. Did you guys make Jet be a waiter? Like, was he moving around getting everybody waters and stuff like that?
Sort of, but it was more family doing that.
I think it's cool because like I mentioned you and Jet there, a couple of really young guys on this team. How cool has that been for Abbotsford, who I felt like was a pretty young team last year? Feels like you guys are even younger this year. How much fun is it to be a young guy in the mix here with these young players?
I think it's great because like there's not a big age difference, right? So I think it's easier to just get together, right? Because it's just like we are all like pretty similar at some point, and like mentally, and it's like just easier to communicate and just become friends and teammates, right?
I think that's the interesting thing, because there's been a lot of success with the young players too. Like, how much does that just make it easier? Like being, as a team coming together, you guys are all so young, and it's not like you have a lot of pro experience, but you guys have been able to have success. How helpful has that been for development?
I think it's like really good for development. It's like every single game is different, right? So it's like getting a new experience every single time, and like managing to, let's say, not win only like 2-3 games, even extend like, let's say, to 5-6 games, right? It still takes a lot of stuff to do that. Like even winning in this league, it's not easy winning, right? It's always a grind. It's you always have to be on the edge. So it takes everyone to win the games.
That's awesome, man. We haven't had a chance to, like, I talk to you post game sometimes here. We see you in the post games out in Abbotsford, but I've never had a chance to just like ask you some younger questions about growing up. So I got to ask one about hockey and just say, why would you want to be a goalie? Because I feel like that's the position that I would not want to be around. I don't want pucks coming at me. Why did you want to be a goalie when you were a kid?
For me, it was like a different story because like I was a forward before. Like we didn't have a goalie in our team, so everyone was trying out as a goalie, and for me, I guess it worked out, right? And that's how I became a goalie.
So how old was that when you were like, I can't be a forward anymore, I'll be the goalie?
Like 8, 9 years old, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Somewhere like that.
That was so I had a younger brother, and I was like, hey, you should be a goalie. It'd be fun. But it was nice for me because I had a goalie to shoot on every time. So I was wondering if you had like an older brother, or maybe that was why you became a goalie.
No.
So Arturs, there's been a lot of changes for you over the past year. You're getting an opportunity to play a ton out in Abbotsford, a lot of starts for you. what are you most proud of over the past 12 months, the last 1 year? There's been so much that's happened for you. What are you most proud of right now?
I just thinking like that I'm capable, like playing, winning the games, and like that my skill asset is growing, and like I know I'm becoming more confident in the crease, knowing what is my like strengths, right? So I think just understanding yourself even more at this stage, it's like even better, right?
Mm. And with a new coach coming in, how has it been to kind of like I remember looking back in the first game I saw Jeremy Colleton coach was in Penticton. You had a shutout. I was thinking, man, he's gonna like you. You got a shutout in the first game playing in front of them. What's it been like with your relationship with the new coach?
It was really good. I think like there's like a lot of opportunities given, right? And like for a team, I think he's a really good coach. Like we're playing structure, like we're doing like a lot of stuff, which like it's like it's like calm, I would say. It's never like
Mm.
too aggressive speaking. Like there's like a couple of coaches who like to scream, like at least in back in Europe. But yeah, he's like really calm and like, and I really like that actually. And I think it just makes you think like, okay, you have to be better on the next period and try to win the game by like it- can you hear me?
Well, yeah, I
Yeah,
got you there.
my yeah, my AirPod dropped.
Well, no worries. Yeah, with Colleton, it's been interesting because in some post games I've noticed, like I'm sure he's pretty firm with you guys after a tough game as well, and I've seen a couple of them out there in Abbotsford. But at the same time, you mentioned it's maybe nice. Is it more, constructive of him kind of teaching after a bad game because the bad games are going to happen. It's going to be something that happens, and you mentioned it. Some people will yell at you. Some people will teach you. It sounds like Jeremy's more of a teacher in those moments, and more than a yeller, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's better to be a teacher in that moment because, as you said before, we have so many young guys, right? And it's like just the beginning of the careers of many players, and I think it's like really important to understand the basics of the game. And like, let's say every single coach has like a different vision, right?
Mhm.
So I think it's good to have like our head coach's vision and play by it.
Growing up, Arty, when you were in Latvia playing there, what it feels like, it's like a goalie hotbed at times. There are some goalies that come out of Latvia. Is that something that's just known for you back home? Like everybody wants to be an NHL goaltender because it feels like that's where your country pumps out people. It's goaltenders. Like you guys pump out some really good goaltenders at the World Juniors and situations like that. We see a Latvian goalie, steal a game against Canada or whatever it is. It's a lot of fun. What is it like? Like, what's the thoughts about goalies back home?
Uh, I just think like we don't really like take it too seriously at the beginning when you really started, right? And I think it's like all the development stuff comes later when you're like teenage years old, right? Somewhere
Mhm.
there. And I think there's like a lot of good goalie coaches we have. Like maybe we don't have, let's say, the best technique that what North America offers, right? But
Right.
I think there's still like a basis to make just like the point to make a save, right?
Yeah, and that's something that I feel like I'm not a goalie guy. I'm not a goalie coach. I don't know like perfection up to goalie stuff, but I want to ask you, like you said it a little bit earlier, feeling a little bit more confident that you could do the job, and I have to think that that's something that's changed in your game a lot over the past year. How much confidence do you have making a save this year compared to last year? Just confident, just simply going out there and making saves. It feels like you look more confident in the rink there.
Uh, it's a big difference. It's a like I would say huge difference. Like I played like so many games this year already, and it's like there's like it's boosting your confidence, boosting your understanding of shooters, like in this league, and it just makes easier for myself to understand, okay, somewhere I have to be just more, let's say, patient, right?
Mm.
But when you're like, let's say, new to the league, you're you're like on adrenaline all the time, and you're trying to like jump over like to a lot of saves, which makes like difficult after save,
Right.
which can cause
Right.
like some trouble.
I wanted to ask about the new goaltender coach in Abbotsford as well with Marco Terenius. You talked about, some guy, and he's a guy who's come from Europe. He's been all around, it feels like, everywhere in Europe. What's it been like this year? Because I heard a lot of good things from you and Mikey last year about Curtis Sanford and him getting a great opportunity with Toronto. That's good for him. But what's it been like having Marco come in, and like, what is the day-to-day that you guys have as a relationship?
I think it's been really good. Like different goalie coach, different experience. I think it's like it, like in goaltending, I think there's like only on the small things you can really work on, because like everyone is like different. Everyone's stance is different. Everyone's like athleticism is different, right? And I feel like it's just about like small things which like can make a big role in like in your game.
And that's the thing that Marco's been so good at is just keeping you on track with those small things you're kind of saying there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And like giving advices what to do maybe better, right?
Mm, right,
And
most definitely.
I think it's like, yeah, it's like I think he's been like a really good coach for me.
Good. And it seems like a guy who has a good relationship with Ian Clark, and that's probably why Ian wanted to bring him in here as somebody who works side by side. How much is it? I talk about the goalie coach, but the Canucks like to call it a goaltending department. It sounds like, how much of it is about having Ian and Marco be involved with you in your development?
I think it's awesome. Like, working with like top tier goalie coaches,
Mm.
it's always like the best, I think. And it's like taking all the information, all the knowledge they have, and translate it to your game. I think it's amazing thing.
Yeah, most definitely. An amazing thing that I think you want to see this season is some playoff games in Abbotsford. How much of a letdown was it last year to not give your home fans some playoff games, and how bad do you guys want to do it this year?
For sure, this year we want to do that at home. We want to like push it through, right? We want to make sure we play quality hockey and win the games. So I think it's like really good challenge for us as a group. Like last year, it didn't really happen for us, but I think this year is like really good opportunity.
Hmm. Do you think that there's more pressure or excitement? Which one do you guys are more for going into the playoffs here? Because last year, you guys, the 2-game sweep was tough. Is there pressure from last year, or is there excitement because this is a new team here?
I think it's excitement. It's like we're bringing good energy every single day to like even practices. So I think I think everyone should be excited to play. Like it's like really time which matters in the hockey season.
Mhm. With earlier this season, you get a run in the NHL. Um, Talk me through the first start. What was the day like? Like, did you have butterflies in your stomach all day, or were you excited for, like, what was it like when you knew you were getting that NHL start?
Uh, it was really excited. I was nervous too because I was like, okay, I'm playing against like NHL team. Like it's always been like like you always wanted to be there. So like great opportunity and great like teacher, let's say, that game.
Yeah.
And it
What
just like yeah,
I gotta think it's just like, it's such a cool moment for us in the media to watch because that's a dream come true for you. I'm sure it must have been like, what was your phone like after the game? Did you have a million text messages? What was it like?
yeah, it was like a lot of text messages like congratulations to making debut in NHL.
Mhm.
And it's like really excited. Like I'm always excited about playing hockey. It's always been the thing. And like
When you got to come up to the NHL, when I'm at practice, I see this, how much work Ian likes to get before practice, before morning skates, a little bit of time after, has the talk with the goalies, all that stuff. How nice was it to just get there in person with Ian a little bit and get some time this year to work with him? I'm sure you guys were doing, similar things with him and Marco, but to be there with Ian again a little bit at the NHL level, how nice was that?
It's always good to work with Ian. There's always things like I can do better or maybe change sometimes, right? And I think it's like as a good teacher, right? Good mentor, who can like lead you to the right path.
That's good. It seems like you need to just buy into the system, and it works for goalies. I'm, looking at you, the way you've changed your game a little bit, it feels like you've really been able to buy in to what Ian Clark is doing there. How nice is it to be kind of on the same page with a goalie coach? I'm sure throughout your life you've had goalie coaches that maybe you didn't agree with everything, but it feels like you guys are locked in. You guys are on the same page how you're developing right now.
I think it's like really good. Like for me, like as a young guy who got drafted here, I was like really excited, and I knew I had to be like a sponge, right? Listen all this details, all the stuff I could learn, and then later on try to use it in my game.
Mm-hmm. I remember the summer after you're drafted, training camp was in Victoria. That was our first kind of look at you in Canucks jerseys. What do you remember? Because that's a few years ago now. It's kind of crazy to think about. What do you remember from that training camp in Victoria? Because you were so young at the time, Arty.
Actually, I don't really remember much. That's the thing. I just remember like landscape of Victoria, but like practices, not really.
Kind of just all a big blur, eh? Like getting in the NHL time.
Yeah,
You were
yeah.
18 at the time. Yeah, I can't even imagine. I was supposed to ask you this. Some of the guys mentioned you're a sneaky, extremely good video game player, I've heard. So what's your game, Arty? I've been told you're one of the best at a couple of them, but what's your best game?
Um, I would say Counter-Strike Global Offensive.
Oh,
That's a
okay.
pretty fun game to,
I haven't touched the
yeah, play
Counter-Strike in
some.
years. It's still good, eh?
Yeah, it is good. It's fun to play with
Okay.
friends, you know. You don't see your friends often, let's say from hometown. So it's nice to connect together, like speak around, like so it's fun.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm the same. I got every night at 9 o'clock. Me and my buddies, same three guys. We're playing, and it's nice to see some friends from back home. Do you have a regular time? Like, are you able to get back with some friends back home with the time change? I'm sure it might be difficult.
Uh, they live in North America right now, so it's
Oh,
not too
good,
hard to manage that.
nice. Well, aside from the video games, I've heard that traveling's a big thing that apparently you like. What are some of the places that you've traveled to that you've really enjoyed in your young age here, Arty?
Uh, like I traveled a lot when I was like younger, when it was like hockey things, but
Mm,
now I just started to do like vacations and other that kind of stuff.
yeah.
Uh, I'm just always excited about summer. You know, it's fun time. You have to relax from the hockey, take your mind off, and just enjoy yourself for a couple of months.
That's awesome, man. Well, I'm sure the next couple months are going to be a ton of fun before the summer here with you guys getting a playoff run moving ahead. So we're excited to watch that. And I can't let you go, Arty, without showing you. So when we talk about you on the show, and we talk about Abbotsford quite a bit, we have a theme song. It's called the Arty Party theme
Okay.
song. Well, I'm going to play it for you. And I need you to rank it out of 1 to 10, okay? So here it is.
Okay.
This is our Arty Party. A lot of people are calling it an Arty party when you're in that.
I like that.
All right, so 1 out of 10, Arty. What do you think for the Arty party music? Do we need to change it? What do you think? We can make changes. You're the guy behind the party.
No, I think beat is pretty good. It's like,
Okay.
like actual party beat.
Yeah.
And it's like I would give like 7, 6, 7.
7? That's
I think
that's not bad.
yeah.
We'll send you some
Yeah.
lyrics and we'll get you to do some singing for us, and then we'll get a new song. How about that?
Yeah, I could try that, but I'm not a really good
Okay,
singer, so maybe
we'll
some
work on it.
autotune.
Yeah, we'll get you rapping or something, Arty. We'll see what we can do. Well, Arturs, I really appreciate you joining us. Good luck the rest of the way for the regular season. We'll be following along. And playoffs, man, we can't wait to see you guys play at the Abbotsford Center this year. So good luck the rest of the way.
Yeah, thank you.
There it is. Arturs Silovs joining us there. We had a Arty party. 7 out of 10 on the Arty party music. Not bad. Not bad. I think we can work on that and make that a little bit better moving forward here. But maybe we'll get Arturs to mix it up on the track here. We'll see what happens. All right, lots more to get to. Let's get to a prospect report. That's right. Get it going in the chat right now. If you want to hop in here, we will talk about whatever prospects you want. And you can find the Blackfish video up on YouTube right now on the Canucks Army YouTube account. 11 minutes long. So it's a long one. You can check that out. I do want to dive into a handful of things and show a video of Kirill Kudryavtsev. So let's dive into it. We talked about it later on the show in the past week here. Jonathan Lekkerimäki making that return to the lineup. This has all happened in the past week, so I want to get to a lot of little things here. Jonathan Lekkerimäki, and guess what? I got my prospects notes out here, like 4 pages of it. So let's dive into it. Lekkerimäki with the 2 goals in his return to Allsvenskan has been great. He missed 6 weeks, so he came back a little early. They were expecting 8 weeks of him to be out, but he was back in the lineup and playing well. So they've actually swept their series. They won the first 4 games. Lekkerimäki was in the final 2. So Djurgården's just waiting for their next style here to come in and play against the second round of the Allsvenskan playoffs. So all good stuff there. Philip Johansson, the right shot guy, defenseman who's playing off in Sweden. He's facing off against Lucas Forsell still in the SHL playoffs. Game 7 is going to go tomorrow. So one of these 2 is going to be eliminated. I know some people have asked, could Philip Johansson sign an ATO, come over here and play in Abbotsford? I don't think the door is closed on that just yet. It's possible. It's also getting pretty late in the season to see that addition to a team. He's also playing in playoffs, playing a lot of minutes. He's had a long season. Johansson has played a ton of minutes. He could be an option to come on an ATO, join this team, get here, get early, get acclimated with the coaching staff, the organization. That would all be good, but we may not see it until the summertime as well. Maybe at a development camp or something with Philip Johansson, because still not really at that age where he's out of being in the development camp spot. So it could be interesting to see what happens with Johansson and what happens with the rest of that playoff series. Johansson had a goal and 2 assists on Thursday, and that was a great game for him. Forsell's had a 3-point game earlier in the tournament or in the series. So it's been good to watch these 2 players battle against each other. They're also childhood friends. So that's been a fun moment. Elias Pettersson, DPD. I got to say that this is wild. DPD has played in 6 games over the past 7 days. He's played in 4 SHL games where he hasn't played a lot of minutes, totaling up just under 6 minutes actually total. So he's really not playing a lot in those games, but he still has, put on the skates, put on the jersey, been out there for 4 SHL games. He also played 24 minutes on average in 2 J20 games. So the dude has played a ton of minutes of late, a ton of games, 6 games over his last 7 days for Elias Pettersson. The guy just can't stay away from the rink. We like him as our top prospect in the Vancouver Canucks system, but have to be a little bit let down because he hasn't been getting that time in the SHL playoffs. It's a spot where we were hoping to see a lot of success from him and continue to kind of build on what he did all regular season, because there was times where he was in the high teens kind of consistently for like a couple of weeks, playing that many minutes in the SHL. So to not be trusted in the playoffs, not great. So it's not a great thing, but we'll have to see. Maybe there's some injuries moving forward. Maybe he gets into the lineup later on into the playoffs as they roll through. A couple more things from the AHL, and then I'll get to the chat. So fire your stuff into the chat, and we'll dive into player there. Let's talk about Aatu Räty. 8 points over his last 10 games since being reassigned to the AHL. So he's been good playing that center role. Should have a little bit of a boost now to the bottom half of the lineup with Max Sasson joining. So that's all good news there. Arshdeep Bains, since coming on the show, guys, been red hot. He's got 3 goals in his last 4 games. All good stuff there. Jet Wu, still liking what he's doing, throwing the body around a ton. Really good stuff, Jet Wu. Continues to play well, getting a little bit of power play time as well. So that's all good stuff for him in the AHL. I did see his name a little bit earlier. We are going to dive into some OHL players here and just kind of give you a quick little update. Connor Lockhart has 3 goals in his 3 OHL games over the past week. So him continuing to score goals, that's all good stuff from Connor Lockhart. Still not sure. Like, he's a player who could be deserving of an NHL contract from the Vancouver Canucks. I just think that the size is a worry, right? Is he ever going to be an NHLer with, coming in at 5'9"? It's difficult. It's difficult. There's a lot of skill there for sure. And I don't think the Canucks would spend a draft pick on a player that was that size if they didn't have any thought that there could be a future in the NHL. You don't spend a draft pick on a player you don't believe in. So they clearly believe in Lockhart, and he's had a good season. Top 25 in scoring in the OHL, all good things from him. And I know his goal has been to earn that shot and be able to be a player who gets a contract with an NHL team. That's been his goal all season long. He's talked about it on this show. He's talked about it in some articles that we've written about him over the past little bit. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I don't know. I don't know which way this is going to go. If I was leaning toward the side, I'm going to say I don't think he does get a contract, unfortunately. I think that, having a list of 50 contracts that you can get to, not sure if Lockhart's going to end up fitting in the final one there. Josh Bloom, I saw his name pop up in the chat. Let's get to him. He had a goal and an assist and 2 assists over 2 OHL games this past week. Shorthanded assist was a nice one, and I do want to showcase this. I'm going to play this video here for everyone on YouTube of Kirill Kudryavtsev. This is starting to become, I don't want to say like a signature goal, but it's something that you love to see from a defenseman, be able to pull this type of move and consistently do it. We've seen this a few times this year from Kirill Kudryavtsev, where he can go end to end with the puck. And if you're watching on YouTube, please come. If you're listening on the podcast, head over to the YouTube one day when you get a chance for these prospects reports. But we can see Kirill Kudryavtsev pick the puck up in his own zone, really pick up some speed, cross the blue line, and then it's just that little lean back with the puck a little bit, somewhat of a toe drag, pull it back, and end up taking the shot. It's good stuff from Kudryavtsev to do this in a year where he still has another full season in the OHL next year. Like, next year is when we're going to see Kudryavtsev really start to light things up and get our attention. So nice play, coast to coast play. We like to see it from Kudryavtsev, and hopefully you can build going into next season as well. All right. I think we're getting pretty close to wrapping things up here on the show. It's been a fun solo episode so far today. I tell you what, stuff from Arturs Silovs there. I wasn't sure because I've had him in a lot of post games before. We haven't spent a ton of time kind of getting an opportunity. So it was fun there to kind of dive into a few other little things with him. And let me switch my camera back. There we go. To dive into some things, learning a little bit more about Arturs Silovs. So that was a lot of fun. Canucks need right-hand D, Jacob Truscott. Yes, Truscott has a hand/wrist injury. I know he's hoping to get back into the lineup very soon, but they're rocking into their NCAA Final Four with Michigan. So they have an opportunity to get to that point. I think Truscott, if he has any chance of playing, he's going to push himself. He's going to get in the lineup. He's going to play. And from what I've heard, it sounds like he's very open to going pro. So I think it's about the Vancouver Canucks making a decision here. Hey, if you want to add another guy to your AHL roster that you think can bring some depth on defense, I'd go for it. The Canucks don't really have many guys. I think just the 2 guys on NHL contracts playing on their defense right now in Abbotsford. This would be an example of a guy who could bring that. And you bring him in, you bring Philip Johansson in, you're starting to build some NHL potential depth at the AHL level. And that's massive, right? Once you start to get an AHL team that has NHL depth or potential for NHL players, you're really talking about an AHL team that can excite you. And that's what I think we've really changed with this Canucks organization since they moved here from Utica. Since they came back to Abbotsford, they've made big changes towards committing to an AHL team being a real, suffice area where they can actually develop. And instead of drubbing along through a season across the continent where you don't know, they didn't know what was going on in Utica. It was their own thing. Now this is a situation where the Sedins are out in Abbotsford all the time. They're in Vancouver all the time. They're ones connecting a lot of this. I see Cami Granato, Emily Castonguay. They're both out there often. Rick Tockett's been able to go out there and watch games. Like, the connectiveness between the two, which may not even be a word, but the connection between those 2 organizations now with the Abbotsford Canucks and the Vancouver Canucks, it's really coming together as something you can build off of moving forward. So lots of good there. Don't think we have many more in the chat here that I haven't missed. We're going to be back tomorrow with the show. Quad should be returning. Final odds and ends that I got to get to because I know Alex wants us to hit everything on the ticker. The Abbotsford Canucks, we just talked about them. They signed left shot defenseman Andy Carroll of Minnesota State Mankato to an ATO, so he's on an AHL deal with that team. He's going to get an opportunity to play in the playoffs with them. Carroll, don't know too much about him. Like, I've seen him play, but I wasn't really looking for him. Similar to Hirose, where, yes, I watched a lot of his games, but I was watching for Jake Livingstone mostly. Carroll's an interesting one where he's a second pairing guy for Minnesota Mankato. Had a really good team, a really good defense core this year. I mean, 3 guys are going to end up signing pro out of there, maybe even more. So Carroll is going to be an interesting depth addition to the team, and I think he's going to fit in nicely with guys like Quinn Schmiemann, Chad Nychuk. He's kind of in that area in my eyes, a little bit older, so maybe he's got a better chance of it, of actually being some sort of depth for this team. And we'll have to see what happens with him moving forward, but he should be in the lineup pretty soon. Finally, the other odds and end, Max Sasson. He's with Abbotsford now. Don't know if he's going to play tomorrow as they play the Manitoba Moose, maybe on the weekend. You can find all this in the Blackfish video and the article over on Canucks Army, but a lot of really positive things about Sasson's advanced statistics. In the 25 games that we tracked, a Corsi of 61.8%, an expected goals control of 68.3%. Only worry that we really had was him in the faceoff dot. It's a huge jump to go from the NCAA to pro hockey, whether that be the AHL or the NHL. It might be a bigger jump in the faceoff dot. You're going against pros who do this for a living now instead of NCAA players who, yes, they live it, but it's another level. Like, it's another level. Sasson's faceoff percentage, he only won 44.6% of faceoffs in the NCAA this year. So it'll be interesting to watch how he adjusts to the pro level, because I think though he wasn't great in the faceoff dot, he was a really good center. Once the puck was dropped, he's a very good center. He's very good at being in the right position, at assisting breakouts, at doing a lot of little things that centers need to do. He's very good at just being a center. He's just not great in the faceoff dot. So that might be something that works on with pro coaches or something along those lines. So we'll have to see what happens there. We'll wrap things up on that note. We'll be back tomorrow, 1 o'clock. Very much appreciative to our producer, Alex Allard. He's done a good job on the show today, helping me get through a bunch of stuff at the start of the show as well. And Arturs Silovs for joining us there. Awesome stuff. Nice to have an Arty party on the show here. So we'll wrap things up there. Do we play the Tank song one more time, Alex? I think we do. Take us out with the Tank. If the Canucks win tonight, this might be the last one we see. So thank you to everyone in the chat for tuning in. Thank you to everybody for listening on podcast. And we'll be back tomorrow with another episode of Canucks Conversation.
Thanks for listening to Canucks Conversation. Hit the subscribe button to never miss an episode.
How about keep it to a